We set these sites aside not just because they're significant to a town or to a county or even to a state. We set them aside because they're so important that they actually have national significance. They're important to the entire country.
My primary responsibility is to educate people about the parks, their history, their culture, and why they're important, and also to look after both the people, like yourselves, who are visiting the park, but also the park itself, to make sure that it's preserved and that it's here not only tomorrow, but next year, the year after that, the decade after that, so that you and your relatives and future generations can come back and enjoy the park just as we're enjoying it today. So the original ironworks was built in the early 1600s, in the 1630s, so it's almost 400 years old. But those original buildings disappeared over time. So what you see here in the park is actually a reconstruction or a recreation, and that was built in the 1950s. The original ironworks was built because they were trying to build a new colony, a new place to live, and they had water and food and timber, but they didn't have enough metal. And they needed metal to build buildings, to build transportation, to build ships. So the ironworks was built to help supply metal to the colony.
Potters would create clay molds of products that they wanted to make, like pans, kettles, firebacks. Maybe you have a cast iron skillet at home. They would make a mold of those objects, bury them in the sand, and then use a tool like this. And they would fill this up with the molten iron, pour it into the molds, and the molds would fill up with the molten iron, and you would have a cast iron product.
They only learned how to make steel by working with iron in places like the ironworks. So this was a place that led to the future development of the iron and steel industry, not only in the United States, but around the world. We have a general program for public visitors that gives you an overall history of the site, why it's significant, why it's a national park. And then we have a specific program for school children in middle school and elementary school that ties into what they're learning in the classroom and the curriculum standards. The wildlife in this park actually use this park as a little bit of an oasis, a refuge, because it's green, it's open. So there are over 100 species of birds here. There are over 50 species of plants. We have migratory birds like Canadian geese. We have migratory animals. So even though we're only 9 acres in size, the wildlife and the plants take pretty good advantage of the space we have here. It's a beautiful place, it's an important place, it's a classroom, it's a museum, all rolled into one. And you could spend a whole lifetime in a single park like this and not learn the entire history, the culture, and the significance. And I also have hardly ever met a visitor in my career who, when they come to the park, aren't enjoying themselves. It's easy to get to. If you come here, you have an opportunity to learn about how this country grew and developed. And if you have anything metal in your house, whether it's your car, whether it's the house itself, whether it's tools, you can learn about the origin of how we as Americans learned to perfect metal technology by coming to Saugus Ironworks.